All right, so I'll get us started for today. So hello everyone and welcome to the Expert Insights, Mentoring Across Generations. My name is Eric Dormoh and I'll be your host for today. This webinar is brought to you all by the Institute for Professional Development at Metro State University. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're a returner, thanks for coming back for today's session. If you haven't met us here at the Institute for Professional Development, or IPD, essentially we deliver customized professional development for employers and individuals in areas such as business architecture, public sector supervision, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other leadership topics. As a reminder, today's webinar will be recorded and available on our website in the next coming weeks. Thank you all for being here. So while our bread and butter is customized training, here's a list of additional offerings from the Institute for Professional Development. You are getting one of those additional offerings today with our free expert insights. But again, if any of these areas are of interest to you all, please feel free to reach out following today's webinar. So again, this is some of our additional offerings that we have here at IPD. All right, so today's Expert Insights webinar draws some inspiration from a training session I conducted last year on the topic of career development in a multi-generational workplace. It's interesting to note that, as our workforce grows increasingly diverse, collaborating side by side, the demand for effective mentorship strategies is more crucial than ever. Whether you're an experienced professional, eager to share your knowledge, or a younger employee in search of guidance, this webinar will provide you with some essential tools to build productive and collaborative relationships across generations. Before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about myself, especially if it's your first time here. Again, my name is Eric Dormoh. As for my role, I'm currently the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Specialist with Metro State University's Institute for Professional Development. I'm originally from the Twin Cities. I'm here in Minnesota, and I haven't left. So, I love the varying weather. I know someone mentioned the weather today. So, yeah, I've been here most of my life outside of grad school, going to Wisconsin. But my background is in higher education, where I gained experience in advising, career development, mentorship, and leadership training. In my current role here at Metro State, I've given workshops on topics such as cultural humility, diversity, equity, and inclusion essentials, building credibility in the workplace, and much more. All these experiences have just really helped shape my knowledge of mentorship, um, and also helps that I've had, mentorship experiences ranging from my time as a college student all the way through my professional career. So it's really helped shape my passion for today's topic and also the content that you'll see in today's webinar. So just let's take a quick moment to review the goals for today's session. By the end of this webinar, you should have a better understanding of generational differences, some tools to address common challenges in cross-generational mentoring, and lastly, some practical strategies for building effective and lasting mentoring relationships across generations. So to get a quick sense of who's in the room today, I'm going to launch a poll for you all. So please take a moment to answer the poll question: which generation do you identify with? So I'll go ahead and open up that poll. And you should be able to answer, then I'll publish the poll once we get everyone participating. Awesome. Thank you all for the quick responses. Just waiting on a few more. Give another few moments here. I'm just waiting on two more. Awesome. I think we got most of us, but I'll go ahead and end the poll and then share the results. So looks like we have a good mix of participants here today. Um, I myself, I'm representing the millennial generation today, so it's good to see some varying perspectives that'll come into today's chat. So awesome. Gonna stop sharing now. All right, thank you all for that activity. So now we'll get into the survey results from those who participated in our pre-webinar survey. So prior to today's webinar, we sent out a survey addressing multi-generational workforce components. It should have been in the invitation, but also I know it was shared on social media platforms as well. I do want to point out that this was a very unofficial and unscientific survey. We didn't collect any demographics, so the responses could be from any age or any role. Just want to provide some context before I share the data. So again, here were the choices given to each survey participant as it pertained to each statement regarding multi-generational workplace topics. So now I'm going to share for those that responded yes, here's how the statements rated. So when thinking about the multi-generational workforce, right on top there, I saw that realized that the value of reverse mentorship was the most unlikely thought. Um, and this could be because reverse mentorship is unfamiliar or it might not have value. For those that might not know what it is, we'll talk about it today. I think one of the most surprising responses was that a little more than half of the responders thought of the varying degrees of technology expertise was not as was a little bit more than half. So I know that when we think about technology, this can be frustrating, but I think now that we're getting more used to technology, that in our personal lives, people are transferring this knowledge into our work lives as well. When you look at this, these results, I think the fact that the differing communication styles was high. I wasn't too surprised about that. I know that's a common frustration when we think about navigating multiple generations. Um, and then the need for coaching, professional development, and retraining was also highly ranked. This could be maybe a cause and effect, being that, there's some roles that weren't created as we were, thinking about what we wanted to be when we when we grow up. That we just see with all the changes happening, that people are really looking for professional development and training to make sure that they're up to speed as well. I think looking at this too, one of the most encouraging stat lines was that the category of diversity making us stronger was high. So I hope you all find reasons to be pleased that all generations are represented. So now that we have some context for today, let's get into the main presentation. Again, thank you all for participating in the survey if you did as well. All right, so let's set the stage for exploring the four main generations that make up most of the workplace. I want to note that we won't be covering the traditionalist generation, as it represents a very small percentage of the workforce. These are individuals aged 78 to 96. Additionally, please keep in mind that the information presented is just based on research, and it's intended to provide a general overview. So disclaimer, uh, the characteristics don't define every individual within each generation category. I know that we're all individuals here, but these were just some of the broad observations that I gathered. So just wanted to make that disclaimer as well. All right, so let's break down some of the main characteristics. First, we have baby boomers, which represent about 15% of our current workforce. As children of traditionalists, many baby boomers developed a strong work ethic along with a sense of responsibility and respect for their elders. But however, they experienced cultural and technological advancements while growing up. They tend to be more independent, confident and forward thinking in the workplace than their predecessors. I noticed that they often value experience as it pertains to mentorship and have traditional views on leadership. So next up is Generation X, or I found that their nickname is Latchkey Kids. It was thought that this generation may have been home alone, being that their parents are working a lot. So I guess that's where the nickname came from when I was researching it. But Gen X is about 31% of our workforce, and they were raised, amid the rise of mass media, technology, and political unrest in many regions. Generation X paved the way of a more independent path than their traditional rule-following predecessors. And one thing I noticed too is that, after seeing, parents and grandparents work hard, many Gen Xers started, tipping the work-life scales to be more balanced, and it pushed their employers to focus more on people and not just profits. So this group I found as well might be a little bit more self-reliant when we think about mentoring relationships as well. So now we have Generation Y, mainly known as millennials. So I'm also representing this group. It's about 36% of the workforce. And similar to Gen X, many millennials see and respect the work ethic of previous generations, but want to invest more in their personal lives and just in making the world around them better. They're growing up with that internet access made their worldviews much more global. The expectations of speed was much more higher, even when you think about the workplace, and just for that hunger of improvement. And when thinking about mentoring this group, it's important to note that they value purpose and flexibility and enjoy more collaboration. So last but not least, we have Generation Z, or Zoomers is the nickname that I saw for them. This is about 18% of the workforce. This group, never remembered a time without the internet or technology. Most Gen Zers are, global-minded digital natives who value that instant gratification and see speed as a requirement and not a luxury. One thing I noticed was that with this group, growing up amid some difficult economic times, uh, made many Gen Zers more entrepreneurial, focused on personal fulfillment, and comfortable with change. Um, when you think about all the different avenues, right, to have online businesses and things of that nature, this group is just used to using that technology as well. It was noted that this group values personal development as it pertains to mentorship. And they also have had a lot of access to information sooner than we had, um, or sooner than older generations. So they may take an approach of having multiple mentors as well. So again, these are just some of the overall characteristics, and they might shape how each generation communicates, collaborates, and approaches work. So one thing I wanted to engage the chat is with this prompt on just what you think is the biggest strength of your own generation that you represent. So I'd love to get any feedback, and I'll also be sure to add that prompt in the chat. So I'll give you all a little time to just reflect and again, thinking about what you think is the biggest strength of your generation in the workplace. I'll give some thinking time there. I know for myself, being a part of Generation Y or millennials, I feel like there's a decent balance of um, coming. I'm a little bit of a later gen, relate a little bit better to the generations before me and after me. Catherine says, can use both TikTok and a fax machine. Yeah, yeah. Our independence, we don't require a lot of direction and guidance, experience and willingness to share it, work ethic, dependable. Yeah, awesome. Keep them coming. Great. Let's see. We care greatly about our work and equally value our health. Oh, Larissa. Mom shoved my brothers and me out the door, locked it behind her and told us not to come back. Yeah. Experience never gets old. So I'm loving the engagement. Thank you all so much. Yeah, tech savvy, but can be resourceful when technology fails. Oh, that's a good one. It's Brian says reliance and willing to be a mentor. Yeah, awesome. Definitely hold on to these as we'll use these as we get throughout the presentation. Thank you all so much um, for engaging me in there. And apologies if I might miss some in the chat as I'm driving as well, driving the PowerPoint as well. Okay. So now that we've established a better understanding of the generational landscape, let's focus a little bit on mentoring and some of the challenges that occur in this space. So we think about the mentoring basics. Mentoring is, a powerful tool that individuals can use to learn from one another, share knowledge, and grow professionally. When we look at cross-generational mentorship, it's especially valuable because it enables both mentors and mentees to, learn from each other's experiences, right? So, younger generations may bring, new perspectives, while older generations offer that experience, wisdom and just that industry knowledge. Um, so again, definitely with that cross-generational piece, there's high value in that. In today's diverse workplace, cross-generational mentoring promotes more of collaboration, fosters innovation, and really helps to bridge those generational gaps. So being that you all value mentorship, since you're here for this webinar, I was curious to know, how has mentorship performed in the context of your workplace or your professional realm? In other words, what are some key components of mentorship in action? Would love for you all to, share some of those components. So again, just thinking about those key components in your own words or your thoughts, or maybe if you have, formalized systems in your workplace, just some of the key components that you all might use. So give you all some thinking time. Yeah. John says an avenue to ask any question. So Dr. Blamo says pairing more tenured staff with those new to the organization, which is we feel the work, giving constructive feedback and opportunity for growth. Yeah, providing answers or avenues to find answer. Awesome. Keeping company, yeah, relationship building, connection, and open communication. Access to people and process for learning, the opportunity to shadow. So these are all good examples. Definitely keep them rolling through. Just again, as be a recap or even to summarize what was said in the chat, right? The mentorship can look like goal setting, as some might have mentioned. It could be skill development, right? What are different certificates you might be looking into, or different skills, how to be better organized, things of that nature. Could come in the form of career mapping, trying to figure out, okay, I see this person maybe in this director role or different roles I can, attain to get to this level, right? So that's something that I've gathered just through different experiences. It could be networking opportunities, right? You know, might send um, a group to conferences or different opportunities, to meet others in the industry. I think it was, yeah, someone mentioned constructive feedback, right? How that might look. It could come in the form of, regular check-ins, at your organization. Maybe there's specific cadences that you all might use. And again, right, it could be formal or non-formal. So again, even within these key concepts, there's so many different ways to do it, and there might be just differences when you think about um, managing different generations. So when we think about this list, into the question, right? How generational differences have impacted mentoring experiences. I would love to use this opportunity to share just a personal story. I know when I was in graduate school, I mentored eight freshmen through a scholarship program. And these freshmen were they came from Los Angeles as a cohort. Um, and so from this experience, I was a millennial mentoring Gen Zers. And one thing that I had to manage was just some of the difficulty um, in adjusting to different communication styles. I think for myself, again, being more used to more the face-to-face or even um, less on the technology side in terms of communication. So I found myself, engaging more with text, right? But sometimes, the text can be misinterpreted. Um, and even when it came to addressing different etiquettes, right? Being that I was more used to this email etiquette, trying to be able to teach the students I was mentoring how to navigate that aspect. I think there were some growing pains, and while we figured it out, but just seeing just how the difference in generation really affected that experience. And I think too, just coming in with different generational biases that can be something to navigate as well, right? One thing I learned through previous training was that while there may be someone that represents a certain generation, maybe they were raised by, a baby boomer or um, so that was a big thing too, right? However, raised the person in the younger generation that might shape how they communicate or how they navigate spaces. So I think one thing I had to do was remove my generational bias, thinking that there were certain things that these students might not have came in knowing, but trying to meet them where they're at and also building that collaboration. So these are just some key ways where those generational differences can impact mentorship. And I wanted to actually go into some common challenges that can arise. I know again, the first thing I spoke on was those communication barriers. Again, different generations tend to have different preferences when it comes to communication, right? Older generations, they may prefer that face-to-face conversations or phone calls, while younger generations might favor, text messages or instant communication tools. Whatever you are using in your own organization. One story I always think of is when I'm trying to communicate with my younger brother. He's a senior in high school. I'll try to call him and he barely answers, but if I text him, he'll get back to me right away. So I'll just I'll like make fun with him and I'm like, I try to call you, but you're not answering, but you'll text me back right away. Either way, I guess if I want to communicate, I try to adjust to where he's at. Um, I'm sure maybe some of you have experienced some of those communication barriers on either side of the spectrum, right? So that's one thing to navigate. The next one is, work ethics and value conflicts. The generations often have different attitudes towards work-life balance, ambition, and feedback. Just again through the research and just through my own experience, noticing that baby boomers and Gen X might emphasize some of the hard work and loyalty, where millennials and as Gen Z may prioritize flexibility or career progression. I know one thing that when I've talked to others, right, when it comes to some of the younger generation, we're not as quick to stay in the same spot for long periods of time. Um, and speaking with just older generations or just through my own personal experience, I know some of my older uncles and aunts, right, they might have worked for the same company for a vast majority of their careers. I think there's beauty in both of those, and I think it's just sometimes those ethics and values may conflict while one might be more right than the other, but this is where friction can be created if it's not addressed, right? So really trying to understand those differences um, is something that is key as well. And the last one is this that resistance to change. Mentors and mentees, they may resist to adapt into each other's styles. For example, an older mentor might find it difficult to embrace new technologies, while a younger mentee might feel frustrated with traditional approaches to problem solving. I know one thing that may be new for a lot of us, right, is thinking about AI or Chat GPT. Um, and it's interesting just through my experience with speaking with um, students. Right now, I'm mentoring some high school seniors, and they're already very used to now problem solve using that. And I know some organizations might use it or not, or might have different viewpoints on it. But again, that could come to that resistance to change on either way. So just something to think about and consider. Um, I'll do another poll here. I think I see. Okay, so my next poll is just out of these three, what challenge do you see most often in your own mentorship experiences? So I'll go ahead and launch that to see where we land. Get some good feedback here. Let's wait on a few more participants. Give it a little bit more. All right, so I'll share the results here. So yeah, looks to change and work ethics and value conflicts were tied, communication barriers a little bit lower. So yeah, I think these are definitely um, these key challenges that we're trying to address, and I think too, hopefully we'll go into some tools to address these. So just some good insight for those that are here today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And the key thing too is, identifying these challenges really can really help us navigate them and foster more productive relationships. Oh, okay, just making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. So, we listed out some of the challenges, and to overcome these challenges, I just wanted to list just some best practices for, building successful cross-generational mentoring relationships. I think the first one, right, is just being able to foster open communication. I think with that, the key thing is that this is critical to creating an environment where both parties feel comfortable in expressing their expectation, their goals, and feedback. This is where those regular check-ins might be important to making sure that there's alignment and keeping the relationship on track. So again, whether you have a formalized or non-formal mentorship relationship, right? Really setting the standard of if these check-ins will be, monthly, maybe they're quarterly, maybe they're every other month. Really just depends on, again, that open communication and being able to have the space to express, comfortable in sharing those things. So really being open, having that open-mindedness as well. Earlier we spoke about, the strengths of each generation, right? So one thing that we can do is leverage each person's strengths. Mentors, can learn about new technologies or fresh ideas, from the younger mentees. Our mentees can gain those valuable insights and experience from older mentors, right? One concept that was spoke on with the survey. Some companies have introduced the concept of reverse mentorship. If you haven't heard about it, that's where junior employees might mentor senior colleagues and sharing their expertise in areas like technology, digital media, or even diverse perspectives. So again, it's just about embracing these differences and utilizing all those strengths that we mentioned to really help create a more effective mentorship relationship. I think another key one too is just encouraging mutual learning. Again, that mentor-mentee relationship should always be a two-way street where both individuals are willing to teach and learn from one another because this builds that respect and strengthens the connection. So again, just being curious, being willing to learn, because I think if either one is stuck in their own way, how do we learn? How do we be able to meet each other where we're at and really have that open dialogue? So mutual learning is very key in building those relationships. Last but not least, as simple as put, right, setting clear goals and expectations. Successful mentoring relationships, are built on mutual understanding. That's one thing that I found in my experience with mentoring. For myself, I try to clearly define roles, goals, and success metrics at the start. I feel like this helps to ensure that both the mentee and the mentor are being aligned and being accountable, right? So maybe it's maybe if you're working with a group of interns, this might be a big piece where if you're not already, they're just setting those goals and having those expectations that okay, by this meeting, maybe you're performing three information or interviews and coming back and talking about how that went or again just having that be key. So again, these are some key strategies that can just help create stronger, more effective mentoring relationships. So there are many tools and resources available to support mentors. So here are a few recommendations that I've found. Platforms like Zoom, Slack, or Microsoft Teams allow for easy communication, right? Especially if you're in a remote or hybrid work environment. Again, maybe you're managing a formal mentorship program. I think about using these tools just to help, again, bridge that generational divide. Another key thing too, right? Using LinkedIn Learning as a tool, or using it in terms of networking or connections. I know in prior roles, we really taught um, interns really how to utilize LinkedIn as it pertains to, maybe having templates for reaching out to others that might be in roles that you're interested in, or just to kind of really enhance that network. So I'm using these tools, as you're in that mentoring space, can really help when you think about the different technology. Um, Also, there are many great resources when you think about books and articles on generational dynamics and mentorship, such as Generations at Work by Ram Zemke, Leading Across Generations by Jeff Arnold, or Five Generations in the Workplace, How to Manage Them All, which is an informative piece by Elizabeth Perry. Um, and just in case that you can't see some of those, I will go ahead and also slide those into the chat as well. Let me just copy and paste that. Okay. So again, these are some really cool pieces to check out. And then also the last piece is just considering additional training on mentorship or generational differences to help really deepen your understanding and improve your skills in this area. In fact, I'll do a shameless plug. Here at IPD, we do offer training on multi-generational mentorship in areas of whether that's mentorship or career development. And this is a more extensive training on the topic. We include activities, whether for in-person or hybrid, or sorry, in-person or remote. We offer different written materials to really help engage participants. So, if you're interested in some training, we can customize that training for you all and really come in to speak on this topic as well. So again, these are just some different ways, if you're not already using these to really enhance your tools for successful, mentorship relationships. So again, just to bring us all together, I wanted to share this quote that was from Elizabeth Perry on the article that she wrote about, multiple generations in the workplace. Um, Again, she says, having several generations in the workplace teaches everyone to be more open and foster understanding. It unites varying perspectives, experiences, and skill sets, enriching all team members' potential for learning and growth. So again, this just helps us to gain an understanding of the importance of having multi-generational teams, and how each generation has valuable input that can be shared. So I think that it was well put, just how each generation provides great strengths when we are able to combine all that knowledge and experience. So as we again just think about the key takeaways for today, I think again, as we understand generational differences, this is essential when we think about, you know, effective communication and collaboration in the workplace. Maybe we're adjusting or using different tools, right, to really understand where each generation is coming from and their communication, and just some of the key things that shape their characteristics in the workplace. Addressing challenges, as we spoke on with communication barriers, the differing work ethics and resistance to change, really helps strengthen those cross-generational mentorship relationships. Last but not least, it's all about building effective relationships. In those key components, again, just having that open communication, that mutual respect, and again, leveraging each generation's unique strengths. That's one thing I realized, just really being open to getting to know each individual and, removing that generational bias, right? Because, we're not all the same, depending on the generation that you were born into. So I think it's all about having that open mindset and really getting to know those that you're mentoring, or if you're a mentee in the space, just understanding that while your mentor might have different perspectives, I think being open-minded to collaborate in those spaces. So I just want to encourage you all to apply some of these key strategies in your own mentoring relationships and workplace dynamics. So one thing that we love to do at IPD is stop, start, continue. Um, So it's kind of a knowledge check here. Just would love to hear maybe one thing that you all want to, start doing based on what was talked about today, or even something that you want to continue doing, based on if there's any new insights, or something that you might, do less of. So if you're comfortable, I would love to hear, or would love to see in the chat just one of these aspects. So I'll give you all some time just to reflect and see some insights that people have from today. Or if there's any ideas that you all might be using in this topic as well. Always good to learn from the audience. That's something I learned. So yes, I love the idea of creating opportunities for our newer and sometimes younger employees to share or showcase their knowledge and skills. Check out those books. Encourage, describe why. what I do versus has value versus expecting others to know. Yeah. Stop assuming. Yeah, that's a big one. Reverse mentoring. Yes, it's a really cool concept. Thank you for noting that, Dr. Blambo. Being flexible. Yeah. Or patience with colleagues who consider my contributions dated. I see. That's a good point. I think there's so many. I love learning just some of the old tricks of the trade when thinking about just education in general. I've had some really great conversations even with my own supervisor who I'm able to learn, from things that they used as they were growing in the field as well. So I think definitely a lot of value in the ways of learning and educating as well. Well, awesome. So just before we officially close today, um, I'll continue to check the chat as well. I want to take some time again just to highlight some of our offerings here at IPD. I'll also share our website. But just again, if this is your first time, we do offer um, our DEI Workplace Essentials Certificate, um, where again you can add in just different aspects of things you're trying to learn. Again, which multi-generational workplaces. That's also diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you're interested in any of our certificate programs, I'll go ahead and add that into our chat as well. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the copy and paste. And then just in terms of what's coming next, on May 22nd, we'll have our expert insights titled Foundations of Workplace Resiliency. In this workshop, you'll learn how resiliency strategies work and how you can apply them in your workplace. So have more details on that coming shortly. But hopefully we'll see you all there on May 22nd at the same time. Um, so again, just want to thank you all for joining today's webinar. I hope that you found this session informative. Again, that you'll take some valuable insights for building stronger cross-generational mentoring relationships in your own workplace or just in professional settings or non-formal as well. If you have any follow-up questions or want to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email, my work phone, and also on LinkedIn. So I love this aspect of mentorship and just being able to help educate and teach, and would love to continue the dialogue. Or again, if you have any different training needs or just want to engage further in the topic, would love to hear from you all. So I'll hang around for a little bit, but thank you all so much for taking time with me today for the expert insights. I hope you all have a great rest of the day and enjoying some of the spring weather coming.